Hello, you guys. How are you? Welcome to Coffee Chat with me, Catherine Oster. It's so great to have you joining, whether you're watching live now or in the future. Thank you so much. And so, I'm an Access Consciousness certified facilitator, and what these coffee chats are about are how I use the tools of Access Consciousness to change and create and play and have fun and truly enjoy my life. And so today I wanted to talk to you guys about relationships. So, hello, how are you? Can you type me in the comments? Hey guys! Okay, yay, we have some live people joining now. Oh, good, Loretta, I can see comments. Yay! I'm so excited about that. Facebook is always interesting, and I never really know if I'm ever going to be able to see the comments for sure or not. Hello, Lori. Thank you so much for joining me live, guys. Okay, we're talking about relationships today. Now, what really popped this for me was yesterday, Travis, my husband. So, for those of you, just a little bit of background information. We have actually been together for almost 21 years. We started dating back in like April, May of the year 2000. So it's coming on 21 years, and we've been married since 2008. So our relationship has really evolved and changed, and it's been interesting. It's been an interesting roller coaster ride. What shocked me yesterday is that he was very excited to purchase a mixer. So I'm going to show you the mixer. Let me see. He just got it yesterday. It was on sale at Canadian Tire, a Cuisinart mixer. This man, and it brought him so much joy. And he made like 2 loaves of bread last night and a batch of buns, and he cleaned up the kitchen impeccably. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, looking back to even like this time last year, this was something that I didn't think would ever happen. Now, this time last year, we just started going and COVID happened. Well, I think everything shut down in like March or something. And so he actually discovered that he loved baking bread. Like he just started, we were all kind of home and in the house and it was cold out. And so he just started trying things and he started baking sourdough bread. But he would leave the kitchen a mess. Like there would literally be flour everywhere and it was driving me crazy. Now, these tools of Access Consciousness empower you to know that you can change or create anything in your life. And yesterday it struck me. I'm like, Travis cleaning up after himself with baking was not something I honestly thought could ever change. And I remembered how much frustration it brought me. And last night I was like, oh my God, it's different now. Oh my God, it has changed. And I was just like, wow. And then I started like reminiscing about our whole relationship. I don't know where this conversation is going to go and how much it has evolved and changed. And there were some, interesting times where I wondered if my life would be easier and better on my own because it's hard. Relationship is difficult. It takes a lot of, now I don't want to, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of presence. It takes a lot of willingness to give up being right. That's probably what started changing it the most for me was when I was finally able to let go of having to be right about everything and prove how right I was and defend myself. And I constantly made him wrong. So that wasn't like, that created a whole like friction of, I mean, we argued a lot. I don't think either of us were very happy for a period of about a few years. And I didn't know that was also another thing that I didn't think that I could change. I can't tell you exactly what changed that. But well, maybe I can. What changed it was this clearing. So in Access Consciousness, we run they're called clearing statements. And so the one clearing that really gave me a lot of freedom was this: who or what am I defending for or against that if I didn't defend for or against would give me all of me? And then I would run the clearing statement, which is right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys and bands, because I found I would go into defense with him so much. Like, he would say one thing and it would put me into defensiveness, and like my barriers would come up and I would just want to fight. And so that's different now. And that clearing is probably something that was one of the things that really started to change that for me. So if you wanted to take that yourself and start running that in your head or out loud throughout the day, or even with a person, who or what am I defending for or against with Travis? And you could put your husband's name, your partner's name, your mother's name, your kid's name, just put in whoever's name you would like to. Who or what am I defending for or against with regards to, insert your person's name, that if I did not defend for or against would give me all of me? Now, that whole thing about giving you all of you, like when you have you, when you're trying to be right, you're not having all of you. You're just trying to be right. It'll allow you to start to open up a space where you can be you in the relationship. So now when I look back, when we start relationship, and we don't have any information or any tools, we just meet a person and we really like them. So we do all of these things that we know makes them happy. Now remember, we're psychic, we're aware. I was aware of all the things that if I did them would make Travis happy. And I wanted to be in a relationship with him. So I did all of those things. What started to show up was I lost myself in me trying to be a person that he would like. And maybe I never even really had myself to begin with. I didn't really, it's interesting looking back at the dynamics of it and the energetics of it. And then, and then I wasn't happy. I was really pissed with myself. And I was frustrated and I felt like I couldn't get out and I didn't know what to choose. But yet there was no problem, right? He was never going off, cheating on me, partying. And there was no problem. But I just I had everything that you should have in a relationship to make you happy. But I wasn't. But what was missing in that relationship was me. And so when I started making different choices, doing things for myself and not for him, it started changing things. And it also started changing things for him. And so, but what I really noticed yesterday was my willingness to explore what made me happy has invited him to explore what really makes him happy too. And it's totally beyond anything that I ever thought possible for him. If I look back to 3 years ago, I would have never imagined this man would love baking bread. The look on his face when he bought his mixer, he was so excited. He washed it up, he cleaned it. He was very, he made his first batch of bread and he was happy. And I was like, man, that is awesome. I took a picture of him and he's like, you better not post that on Facebook. He didn't want anybody to know that he's a bread baker and that it brings him joy. But because it's just, he was never that kind of person. And these barriers that I had up in our relationship with us, when I started running that clearing and they started coming down, I finally started And I had this thing where I had to prove that I could do everything on my own, that I didn't need anybody to help me, that I was strong and I was capable. And because when you need somebody, then they let you down. And then you're left there feeling broken and let down because this person that you needed isn't showing up for you. So clearing all of that energy. So there's a different kind of conversation, not needing each other, but receiving contribution from each other. So I wanted to prove that I was strong and that I was capable and I didn't need anybody. And you better just be damn lucky that I'm letting you be in my life, but you're not allowed to do anything for me. It's kind of like how I was. And so for him, like, and he actually, looking back, I can see how all the ways that he actually wanted to do things for me and I would never let him because I had to prove that I was strong and capable. And so running that defending clearing started to change. My barriers started coming down and I started actually asking him to do things for me and allowing and receiving it when he would, like. And so now he does things that shock me. He will, if he knows that I'm going the next day with my horse trailer, he will actually hook it up for me and get it ready to go without me even asking him. That's the thing. But that was something that never happened before. Hi, Kyla. And I made him wrong for it. Like, I would be like, God, he never does anything for me. And, I'm always having to do everything. But the thing was I wasn't ever letting him do anything for me. And when he would do something for me, I would make him wrong for it. And so I really had to look at that and get vulnerable with myself about how I was being and how that wasn't inviting him to be more in the relationship. And so, so now he does things like hooking on my horse trailer, like I don't even ask him to. You know that thing where I wanted him to read my mind before and just do the things without me having to ask him to do it? Well, it actually shows up now. After running that clearing and after looking at how I'm being in the relationship and allowing myself to be different with him. And then last night he baked his bread and he actually, like, he cleaned up the kitchen superbly. Like, I was shocked with how well he cleaned up after himself. And I'm like, damn, how does it get better than this? Like, I didn't have to, it wasn't a fight. There was no arguments. But also acknowledging that he's different than I am and he sees things differently than me. And so, a dirty kitchen doesn't really matter to him. But so last year when he was baking and we were going through the thing and I was having to come in and clean up the kitchen before I started making supper so I could have the dishes to use. And I was getting angry and I'm like, but I also wanted to celebrate that he was choosing to bake and explore something else that made him happy. And I was actually able to not go into reaction to him and totally like explode and make him wrong, because what would happen is if I did that, then he would be like, well, I'll just never bake again. You know, it would kind of turn into this whole drama thing. Instead of being in reaction, I was able to have the presence to actually just say something, and from being a different energy, not being in reaction or being angry, like from a space of being different, I was just like, hey, you know, when you start to bake your bread, like, do you ever have to do dishes or clean up the kitchen? And he's like, no. And I'm like, isn't it really nice? And he's like, yeah. And then after I said that, he kind of knew where I was going with this. And I'm like, well, I really love that you are baking and you're doing these things. That's great. But it doesn't work for me to have to come in and clean up the kitchen when I make supper. So I wonder, you know, can that change? And so I actually said it from the space of how I just said it to you guys. I wasn't making him wrong. I was just kind of from the energy of having a conversation and like stating some facts. Hi, Jane. And then he was kind of like, yeah, I could do that. So from that point on, he started cleaning up a little bit more and being more conscientious of that. So when you can be a different energy with a person and not be in reaction, so that reaction is the defending, right? So that defending clearing is really freaking magic. Like, who or what am I defending for or against, that if I did not defend for or against would give me all of me? And so yesterday when I came up, I started some online training. I'm renewing my certified facilitator training, and we're doing it. It's 5 days, and it starts at about 5:30 p.m. till about 1 in the morning with a break in the middle. But I came up on my break and I'm like, I knew he'd been baking, and I was kind of in my head like, oh man, I'm gonna have to clean up the kitchen. And I walked around the corner and my jaw dropped because he had cleaned it. Like, cleaned it to pretty much my standards. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, and so what else is possible in your relationship that you don't think is possible, that if you would allow the possibilities, things could start to change? Like running that defending clearing, like, and just write it down on a piece of paper, say it in your head, make it your thing, because it is your mind and your points of view that can start to change things within a relationship. And one of the questions, like, I remember going through a pretty rough patch, and I was pretty much contemplating that maybe I would be better. Like, I was always wishing for the day that I could live by myself, which is really weird in a relationship. And I'm like, that's not contributing to the relationship either, because here I am continuously wishing that I don't want to be here, or waiting for the day when I don't have to be here anymore. And I'm like, that's not very much fun. Like, either I'm here or I'm not. What am I going to choose? That doesn't feel good to the other person energetically. When I'm here, like, God, I just hate being around you and I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that's not. And I'm like, Catherine Oster, shit or get off the pot. And I'm like, there was no problem. It was interesting. So anyway, I was on a call with another facilitator, and I just asked her a question. I was like, my relationship, like, I'm just not, like, I don't know what to choose. I'm not happy, but is that me? Like, do I need to change something within myself? Am I putting it onto the other person to make me happy? Do I just need to step up and be responsible? Or do I actually need to just leave? And is that going to create greater for me? And she asked me a question. Now, the brilliance of working with an access facilitator that pulls you is that they ask you a question from the space of no judgment, and they don't have a point of view, and they're not projecting anything at you. So you can get a really clear sense of what is actually true for you. It's amazing. And so she asked me a question. She was like, hey, does it create a greater future if you stay with him? Get a sense of that energy. What will your life be like in 5 years if you stay with this person? And what will your life be like in 5 years if you don't stay with this person? And the energy to stay was so much greater and lighter and expansive. So that's one of the first things you learn in a bars class, an access bars class, is to start to tap into the energy of your choices. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm in, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to change this relationship so it works for me. And so that's when I started this discovery, running that defending clearing, staying with it. And it's taken a couple of years like that. When I had that call with that facilitator, we still lived in Turtleford. So that was probably like in 2014, 2015. So it's probably 5 years ago. Now, everything has changed and evolved, and there has been, but yesterday I was like, man, and when I look back, like, we don't actually fight anymore. Like, we actually just have conversations. Like, does this work? Like, that's a question. Like, does this work, that we ask each other? And it's like, no, it doesn't really work. And another thing is, like, I don't try to control him, and he doesn't try to control me. We each make our own choices in what we do, and we're starting to have more fun together. And rather than, I used to think about, like, oh my God, when we were dating and teenagers and life was so much better before kids. And I'm like, actually, what if that's not really true? What if that is the lie that is sticking me? For what reason would I not continue to live a greater life every day? Why would I think that the best years of my life have already happened? That's pretty fucking gay. I'm like, I want the best years of my life yet to come. Like every year, what would it take for it to get greater and more fun? And that, if you notice the energy of that, that is really exciting. And so I wonder. So that is my relationship chit chat for you guys today. It's like really just touching the surface of all the things, but I just wanted to invite you to look at. Now, the other thing is like, if the energy was lighter for me to go on my own back then when I asked that question, then I probably would have chosen that in some capacity. But your willingness to trust the energy, I'm not saying that you should stay in a relationship that is really destructive to you. And no, like you always have another choice. But if something isn't quite working, you can also have a choice within that relationship to change it. So it could become greater for both of you. And so it was just really cool to see Travis discover something that he loved. And I know that me being me and discovering things that I love invited him to look at different things for himself and discover what else lights him up in his life. That's maybe something different than he's never, ever considered before. So that was cool. And he's not a guy, like I don't run his bars. I don't do anything like he doesn't believe in any of that stuff. But I ask him questions, and just me being a different energy invites him to have a different possibility too. All right. That's my chit chat today, my coffee chat. Thank you so much for watching and joining me now live and in the future. And if you got anything out of this, please share it. I would be so grateful. And I'll see you guys later. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.